Don Stanley here with Ken Collins on the Results for You Leadership Show, where we use the foundational leadership models to help you run a more successful organization and become a great leader. And this week, Ken, you've got a really cool topic that we're going to be talking about. Last week, we covered the idea of mentors and mentoring and why that's so important. But this week, while walking the floor, you've been hearing and seeing some cool stuff. So I want to cut right to the chase. Tell us what you've been hearing and seeing.
Sure thing, Don. I'd be happy to. And it's kind of like a last week of the stars aligning on what I'm going to say transformation, because it's kind of funny. So we all have gone through the Thanksgiving holiday, and by the next day, Friday, Thanksgiving's kicked out of here, and we're to Christmas, how quickly that transformation has taken place. And Christmas kind of grabs that attention beforehand. And so with, I think, the nice weather in Wisconsin here, those Christmas lights were all over the neighborhood by Friday. So it's like, wow, what a transformation. And then, just like I always do, I had my sampling of one-on-one coaching clients. And as I was visiting with several of them that I have been with for about 6 to 9 months now, I had some aha moments on transformation as well. And there's a lot of satisfaction in seeing a person become aware and expand their capacity or abilities. And so I wanted to talk about a little bit about coaching, and one piece in particular on this walking the floor. You know, I have seen some studies that have said that by the time we're age 18, we've heard the word no 150,000 times and the word yes 5,000 times. And I think as we've all been children and teenagers and all that, we understand why that is. I don't have any data, but moving forward from age 18 to the rest of our lives, I think we hear the word no more often than 150,000 times, and that might be threefold. What's funny is that word no is coming from someone very familiar to us. It's ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so what I saw in these transformations, and that's what I do as a coach in creating awareness by asking questions, creating self-awareness. Whether it's I pour into my girls, whether I pour into the Results for You team, or whether I report into clients, the common theme is that there's these negative self-beliefs or limited self-beliefs. This little gremlin on here that's whispering in our ear that, oh no, I don't think you can, or no, this feels comfortable, don't try that. And what happens is with some of my people that I've seen it, and you can see the potential, but it's capped by ourselves. We're not matching that gremlins in our ear with the offset. Then we cap and stay stagnant. And then the happiness is at threat, self-satisfaction and things like that. And so the greatest satisfaction I've had is getting people to identify when that gremlin's talking, kick them off the shoulder, and talk about the offsets to a point that they're thinking offsets first and the gremlin comes second. And to see the growth in people once they get these ahas that I can or what I could become is just awesome out there, Don. And so I just wanted to share that transformation kind of look today with our viewers.
Well, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about that in terms of how that's different when you have a mentor versus a coach, because one of the things I know that we have discussed a lot is this idea that your thoughts are habit loops. And when you get this habit of listening to that no, and it's super interesting that you said the 150,000 times you're hearing no versus 5,000 yes. If you do 150,000 repetitions of one thing, you're obviously going to be much stronger than if you do 5,000 repetitions. And so it makes sense that gremlin would be stronger at first. So like with coaching, how does that help somebody learn to interrupt that habit loop, learn to quiet that gremlin, like compared to a mentoring, so that they can learn they don't have to listen to that, and that there's other options so that they tap into their potential, like the stuff you do with your coaching clients?
Yeah, Don. So what happens is when we hear repetitive things or we're conditioned. All of a sudden, you know, our mind, 10% of it is conscious, actively conscious. 90% of it is unconscious. We're in autopilot or conditioned. That's the drive to work in the morning from the driveway that you don't notice anything, but there's a lot of things going on. So we're conditioned to that drive. So that's the analogy I use in my coaching sessions. Mentoring is really sharing experiences and wisdom and, stay out of those potholes kind of thing. We're coaching. The most effective coaching is to ask questions to help people gain a self-awareness of what happened from the time I left the driveway to I got to work. What did I see? What did you recognize? And what does it mean to you? What is it doing to you? How do you feel about it? All those kinds of things. And so it's a repetitive questioning process. And what's important about that, Don, I don't have ownership of it. The client does. Mm-hmm. And so they get the ahas on their own by this self-reflection. And when they get the ahas on their own, they now are empowered after owner. I see this. Oh yeah, that's what I got to do. What that means, Don, is coaching, if it's really effective, it's short term because people learn to get out of the ruts on their own. Take ownership, empower. They're passionate when they're empowered, and then change happens. And change from conditioning happens.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things when you look at the most successful people in the world, you'll notice that virtually all of them have some kind of coach that helps them stay with their conditioning, especially when things get tough. And I think that's one of the things I've learned from you. That's a big value for mentoring and coaching. That combined is really, really powerful because the coach's job is really to make sure you're doing what you should be doing and not forcing you, but really holding you accountable to what you say you're going to do to actually execute. And in a mentorship role, it's not so much that as, like you said, more of like general guiding. So I think that is really, really invaluable. And I know that having had coaches in my life as well, that the impact of that, where you have somebody looking over your shoulder and not like as one of them likes to say, I'm here to give you a loving hug or a loving kick in the pants, depending on what you need, So sometimes you're going to need that kick in the pants and sometimes you're just going to need that hug. But one of my mentors is a military special operator. And one of the things that I learned from them was that even they would have these little gremlins pop up. And one of the things that they learned as far as a habit loop, this one person in particular would say, you know what, Fear? I know you're there. I don't have time for you right now. I'll come back and talk to you later. I got a job to do. And just, those little things, realizing that we all have little mantras, voices, whatever pop up, and a coach will help you overcome that. And being able help you to empower that positive voice is really, really critical. So when it comes to thinking about the resources, we talked a little bit as we were preparing for this episode about a resource that relates directly to this idea of coaching. And I think I want to get right into it because it's really valuable and it's really something that I'm intrigued to hear more of your take on it. So do you want to share the resource of the week with us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and this all links. So a couple of my clients who were extremely thrilled, we did fist pumps because I was thrilled of the progress they've made over the last several months. Two of them turned to me and said, in some form or fashion, Ken, this is really cool. What's the threat? What's the next threat? And it didn't take long for me to think and respond. And I said, well, the threat is ego. We all have, if we're successful, we have egos. We all have them. If we're successful, we have them. What happens, though, there are these traps with success and accolades and kudos and data boys and girls and all that other stuff. And I wanted to talk just briefly about the traps. I'm not going to go in depth. I did post this article from Inc. magazine on my Facebook page, Results4You LLC. And that is, so here's 5 ego traps. One is delusion. So you could lose objectivity with how you view things because you're not taking other people's viewpoints into consideration. You are starting to turn to the mirror for advice and feedback. Number 2, bravado. And this can really cause confusion. because bravado can cause you to bluff, make false threats, or even promises you don't even to feed the ego.
Mm-hmm.
Again, looking in the mirror. Watch out for that mirror. It's good to reflect, but watch out for that mirror. Number 3, winning for the sake of winning. Ego can cause you to move to I win, you lose, whether it's employees, clients, associates, any of those things. So you start to forget what got you to the table, and that is what are win-win outcomes. I got to achieve win-win. What's good for everybody? Then there's this conflict spiral. So now you're, as a leader, when you're building this ego that's getting out of control, your people, there's resentment. And you can feel it as a leader with this out of control ego. And now you get this, I'm going to show them attitude. Back to this, I win, you lose.
Mm-hmm.
You then start to lose your inner circle. And then lastly, narcissism. So when you get totally self-absorbed, you risk manipulation, not only manipulating others, but being manipulated. So you could cave the false flattery, insincere gratitude, and. So just put a wrapper on those traps, those ego traps. If that ego gets out of control, you lose your people orientation that got you to all the promotions, all the successes, all the accolades, all. And it's becoming all about you, not everyone else. So that's the warnings, the red flags segment of today's resource.
And I love that, because one of the things that, if you study a lot of very, very successful people, one of the questions I'm often asked is, Don, when have you stopped getting coached? When do you know you're done? And I'm like, you're never done, because you're always working on self-improving, because little things like the ego and other things will try to creep in. And so you may be able to scale back, but it's a lot like working out. You do maintenance workouts for physical health. You don't just get done and say, oh, I'm done working out, I never have to do it again. That the idea is that, there's vigilance that need to be involved, especially when ego is the enemy, to make sure that you have trusted, valuable people around you that are willing to let you know if you're on the right track, or if you're getting in that ego trap, to say, Don, Ken, you know what? You're getting a little full of yourself here. Let's take a step back and let's rethink about why you're doing what you're doing, and make sure you're being true to what you really are. So I love that. I love that. So we'll make sure to share out that article. Like you said, it's posted on the Results4You LLC Facebook page as well. Now, as far as our takeaway tool tactic for this week, what have you got for us this week?
Yeah, I thought as long as we keep linking coaching today, I was asked by a new client last night to review, Ken, so why is your coaching different than anyone else? Or what is coaching? And so I started to say, I view coaching, and you made this point, Don, I view it as reinvention. We're conditioned. We're not only conditioned, but the environment and surroundings say what you can and can't do, or what can or can't be done. And you can get conditioned to stay in this trap. And so I don't share much about myself, but I think I've reinvented myself 5 or 6 times over, and I'm almost certain I'm going to reinvent myself again. So that's what this is. And I think people who live lifestyles of satisfaction, both professionally and personally and holistically, are masterful at reinventing themselves. And so here's the process I go through, and I explain that coaching is all about questioning and creating self-awareness. But my whole session is about, you're going to take ownership and you're going to be empowered. So when you are passionate by taking ownership and you're empowered, you're more likely to stick to the new conditioning and move forward to greater heights or greater reinvention. So I typically start out with one topic. What do you want to discuss today? A lot of people will say, oh yeah, coach me. Now tell me what you want me to do. Well, hold on here. I'm not going to tell you what to do. What are you looking to? What is important to you? What is meaningful and impactful right now? And so I go down that path. Then I go to secondly, goal. So what does it look like today, and what should it look like when we're done 6 months from now, 9 months from now, whatever? So you begin with the end in mind. There's a vision. That also gets some passion about, oh yeah, let's get some self-awareness. I would really like to be like that over there. Then I go through outcome. What do you want to achieve in this session? So this isn't like a leap. Success is in the daily habits. So it's going to be baby steps. There's no magic wand in this world of instant gratification. It's a journey. But just trust me, we'll get through the journey. So then I go to reality. Tell me what's going on now. Now that you identified what you want to discuss, tell me what's going on now. And as you can see, Don, these are all questions. Yeah, a coach rarely talks. A coach has to be a very good listener. After reality, options. And I'm not going to give options, although I have urges, yeah. And when I have urges, I'll usually say something like, okay, I'm not going to tell you what to do, and that calibrates me back, but what are the alternatives or options? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So now this helps with critical thinking. There's a lot of things that happen in the coaching process. And then when I'm done with the session, what's the way forward? So this is the accountability piece. So get a commitment for the next session. What are the to-dos? What are the next steps? How are you going to apply? Let's take what we talked about to application. And as you know, in training and teaching, Don, application is massive. You try to do that. And then the accountability coach is going to say, oh no, Ken's going to ask about that in the next session, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so those kind of the essence of my coaching sessions, combined with how I explained it earlier in the podcast.
I think some of the key points, I mean, this is the newer show, but I love this episode because the idea of understanding that having somebody accountable outside yourself who's going to help you really become aware of how you think and how you work and how you operate and help you instill in yourself the mindsets, the processes, the things that'll help you be successful, because it's not done by somebody else. You know, Aaron Rodgers isn't a great quarterback because his quarterback's coach and the head coach of the Packers do things for him. They have helped put him in a position to be successful, but he ultimately has to execute. So I really love this. So if people want to learn more about the coaching services for Results for You, where should they go?
They should go to my website, Results4YouLLC.com. Also, too, I've got videos on coaching on my YouTube channel. So if you'd like to get out there and subscribe to Results for You, that would be another way. And then you're going to see podcasts here. So we'll regularly talk about this coaching process and some of the successes, because I think that's what's next in here, Don. Okay, Ken, I get all this. Give me some transformation examples.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we hope this episode helps you start with some level of transformation. Check out our YouTube channel, as Ken said, where we've got videos of all different kinds, including episodes of this show, to help you begin on that process of transforming yourself internally to become a great leader internally and help you have bigger impact within your organization and beyond. And we will be back next week. Thanks so much, Ken. We'll see you next week.
Take care.